Now, what is faith and what is calling the things that are not? So, let us find out what calling things that are not. In Romans 4:17-22, that Abraham became fully persuaded that God would do what he had promised. The way he became fully persuaded was by calling those things which were not manifest as though they were. As it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations before him whom he believed, even God who quickened the dead, called those things which be not as though they were, in Romans 4:17. So you will notice that God called Abraham the father of nations before he had promised child, and he taught Abraham to do the same. God changed Abraham's name to Abraham, and which means the father of nations or multitude. This was the means he used to convince Abraham to call for what he did not yet have in reality. God had established it by promise, but Abram had to call it to reality by mixing faith with God's word. Every time he said, I am Abraham, he was calling the things that were not yet manifested. Abraham did not deny that he was old. He did not go around saying, I am not old, because he was old. But he said, I am Abraham, father of nations. This was God's method of helping him to change his image, and it caused him to be fully persuaded. Paul also gives us insight into the principle of 1 Corinthians chapter 1:27-28. But God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and base things of the world, and the things which are despised has God chosen, yea, and the things which are not, to bring not things that are. In other words, God uses spiritual forces which are not seen to nullify natural things that are seen. This is the Bible principle of calling the things that are not as though they were. Then in 2 Corinthians 4:13, if you see, Paul says we have the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believed and therefore have I spoken. We also believe and therefore speak. Paul is quoting David when he said, I believed and therefore have I spoken. In Psalms 118:17, David said, I shall not die but live and declare the words of the Lord. When it comes to divine healing, this is a vital principle. We should declare to ourselves what God's word reveals and about us, regardless of the circumstances or how we feel about. In Romans 10:6-8, Paul says, the righteousness which is of faith says, the word is nigh thee, even thy mouth and in thy heart. Notice the word first. The word is first in your mouth and then in your heart. God's word becomes engrafted into your heart as you speak it. There is nothing more important to your faith than declaring what God has said about you with your own voice. Giving voice to God's word is a method of calling for things that God has given by promise and are not yet manifested. When you do this, some would say that you are denying what exists, but that's not true at all. You are establishing what God said to be true concerning healing, even though it is not yet a reality in your body. You don't deny that sickness exists, but you deny its right to exist in your body because you have been redeemed from the curse of the law and delivered from the authority of darkness. We can see this verse in Galatians 3:13 and Colossians 1:13. God has also given you all things that pertain to life and godliness. These things belong to you, according to 2 Peter 1:3. And when you are sick and confess that you are already healed by the stripes of Jesus Christ, you are calling for what God has already given to you, even though it is not yet manifested. This is God's method of calling things that are not as though they were until they are. There are some who have misunderstood this principle and they call things that are as though they are not. In other words, they deny what exists. But there is no power in denying that sickness exists. The power is in calling for healing and health by mixing faith with God's word. If you are sick, you don't deny that you are sick, yet on the other hand, you don't want to always be confessing you're sick or your sickness, saying I'm always sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, like that. For that will establish your present circumstance to you. Denying sickness won't make you well, but by mixing faith with God's word, you are calling for the promise of God to be manifested in your body. This will cause you to be fully persuaded, and healing is the result of it. There are some who would say you are lying if you confess you are healed when you are sick. No, you are simply calling for healing that God has already provided, even though it is not yet manifested in your body. What you are really doing is practicing God's medicine to your health. You're not trying to convince anyone that you're not sick, but you are simply proclaiming what God has said in His word to be a fact, regardless of your present circumstance or regardless of your present condition. The word says, by whose stripes are we healed? By Jesus' stripes we are healed, according to 1 Peter 2:24. Notice it is a past tense as far as God is concerned, but not yet manifested in your body. So you are calling your body well, according to Luke 17:5-6 and Mark 11:23. Your body is listening to you and it will obey you if you believe, and you will not doubt in your heart. Your words have more effect on your body than anyone else's word. Your body was created with the ability to heal itself, and if every part functions properly, it will heal. And some sickness is caused by a chemical imbalance in the body, and the part of the brain that controls the speech also controls the secretion of chemicals to the body. This sheds some more light on what Jesus said in Mark 11:23. He shall have whatsoever he said. So this is the thing we are speaking about, calling the things that are not. Thanks for watching. Have a blessed day.